Well, hello to everybody here. It's Teresa Sanderson. As always, very excited to connect with you for another episode of the Nurse Entrepreneur Spotlight. Every week I interview a different nurse entrepreneur and chat with them about what they're doing, what got them into entrepreneurship. And the entire goal, really, of this interview series is just to educate or acquaint nurses with the many and varied nursing opportunities that exist in the world of entrepreneurship. So today we have a wonderful guest with us, Wendy Garvin Mayo. And Wendy, I just want to thank you for joining me today and sharing some time with us. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Teresa. I'm excited to speak with you and your audience.
Awesome. Now, for those of you who don't know Wendy, she is the owner of a company called the Stress Blueprint that focuses on stress management and emotional intelligence consulting, as well as corporate coaching. She does keynote speaking and also training. She is a nurse practitioner and is a passionate board certified nurse practitioner with more than 20 years of experience in healthcare in a lot of different environments. She launched into entrepreneurship as a stress solution strategist, and I just love that term, emotional intelligence consultant and international speaker. And she's also a certified John Maxwell coach and trainer. So she is the founder of the Stress Blueprint, which is the #1 stress management coaching and consulting firm for nurses and healthcare professionals. Wendy, I want to thank you again for being here and taking some time to join us and share your story.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I think this is such an important platform for our profession. So I appreciate everything you're doing.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much. Thank you. So, we've talked a little bit about, I've gone through a little bit of your history as a nurse, but tell us a little bit more about that. How did you get started in nursing? What kind of work have you done? What kind of settings have you worked in?
Yeah, so like many of us nurses, we have a lot of job and a lot of experience. So I started off my career, first of all, before I left school, I knew I wanted to be an oncology nurse, just based on my first clinical. However, my first job was on a surgical unit, even though it's supposed to be on an oncology floor, but we won't get into that. But so I did med surg. I did ER nursing. Early on in my career, I was an assistant director of nursing. I was a director of staff development, infection control. So that's important because I was able to develop leadership skills and all of that early on in my nursing career. And then I went into oncology. I finally settled there after kind of, doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, did home care, hospice, all of that, but then settled into oncology, inpatient and outpatient at the same time. You have a part-time job or full-time job, and then you have a per diem job, and all of you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Because we all do it. So that's my nursing kind of background history. And from that experience of working inpatient, outpatient, oncology, like I said, I had an affinity to oncology. I went back to get my NP. And that was the motivation because I wanted to be an outpatient oncology nurse practitioner.
Oh man, I love that. And, as a former hospice and palliative care nurse myself, those two are very closely aligned.
Oh,
I
yeah.
believe, there's an aggressive track and there's the palliative tract, and it's such a unique time to be invited in to work with patients and families. They're ultimately very vulnerable in a very stressful situation. And it sounds to me that probably the root of what you got started with, maybe with the stress blueprint and emotional intelligence and just, learning these kinds of strategies was very closely related to the work you have done in oncology. So what drew you to entrepreneurship, Wendy?
So for me, it was the pandemic. The pandemic is what really propelled me into entrepreneurship. And like you said, I've been doing this work for a very long time. And I think as nurses, it's important for us to know that we have skills that we learn in nursing through our different experiences that can definitely help us in our entrepreneurship journey. So like you said, I've been doing stress management for many years before I even founded the Stress Blueprint. But what launched me into entrepreneurship was the pandemic. So during the pandemic, I was working from home as a scientist for a pharmaceutical company, just had my son, newly married. Things are great. And I'll tell you that this funny story. So when I had my son, I said that we always have all these jobs and per diem and all that. I said, when I have my son, I'm going to slow down. Right. But then the pandemic hit and I don't know what happened. So the
Yeah.
pandemic hit and it really made me dig deep down into myself and figure out what is my purpose. And my purpose is to serve, very clear about that now. But I was struggling, Teresa. I was struggling trying to really make a decision. Do I stay here in the comfort of my own home or do I go back to clinical practice? And
Okay.
I remember a moment when I was sitting on the couch watching the number of COVID-19 deaths on a TV screen increase. We were watching CNN, the TV stayed on CNN. And I was struggling because I felt like this was a time as a nurse, a healthcare professional, I need to be there. Now that's my interpretation. I needed to be there. And I made the decision. I made the decision to go back to clinical practice in the middle of a pandemic,
Wow.
despite, this virus killing people, despite having my newborn son, my husband, my mother, all of that. And I have to
Wow.
tell you, Teresa, the power of decision propels me into entrepreneurship.
Mm, mm. I I love that statement. The power of decision propelled you into entrepreneurship. And I think it's important for our listeners to hear something really important there, that number one, you launched into entrepreneurship in the middle of the pandemic when many businesses were failing, when many businesses were struggling. You said, you know what, hey, I'm feeling called to serve. I need to do this thing. And regardless of what's going on in the world, I need to do it right now. So I want to applaud you for doing that because obviously you saw a need and felt the need to serve and fill it. Um, and I think I agree with you so much. I say all the time that being an entrepreneur is a decision we make every day, just like we make a decision to stay in a job we hate or stay
Mm.
in a job that just pays the. You see what I'm saying? I mean, nurses, we do a lot of things, and I just have to call it out that many times nurses will stay in roles they hate or really dread being a part of rather than making a decision to do something else. Now, that being said, are there nurses who, and I've been a single mom, so I've been on that side of the coin, and I know what it's like to be in a position that maybe is not the be all end all of everything I want for my career, and just deciding to go every day, right? Because it's what we do. So, but I love that you were able to create something new, decide to create it new, even in that very tumultuous time in the world. So, congratulations on that. And yeah, that's amazing in and of itself.
Yeah, thank you so much. And to your point about decisions, when you're indecisive, like I was kind of struggling, like, how can I want to go back? And I have this newborn baby, right? I was feeling all this guilt, all these things. When you're sitting in indecision, that's stress, right?
Yeah.
It creates a level of stress where you can't decide and you need some clarity. And I got clarity from, really, it's so bizarre. When I graduated in 2004, my grandfather, who now has passed, told me, in this chapter of my life, I have to set my sail. And those words came to me during that time to help me make that decision.
Oh
And
man.
I'll say this, one reason I do the work I do is because I feel like nurses who understand how to manage their stress, and I'm not talking about yoga, I'm not talking about meditation. Yes, those things are good, but true stress management, Teresa, is really taking back control of your mind in your life. And that's what I help nurses do. Because once you can do that, once you make the decision to do that, you really tap into your power. And I think sometimes nurses stay in jobs and stay in positions because they're indecisive. They don't know what to do. They don't feel empowered. But we are such powerful individuals with so much to offer the world, so much to offer the world.
Oh my gosh, I've got chills just listening to this piece. And thank you for sharing all this because, for me personally, I crashed and burned from major depression in 2010 after being a nurse almost 20 years, the owner of a hospice agency for about 10 of those. And so I used to describe it as, the lives and the patients what it felt like. And over time, that takes a toll. And while it was something I loved doing, I didn't know everything I didn't know about true self-care and what that means. And anymore, I feel like it's kind of an overused term. But, what I found was, even though I was doing work that I loved, I was living out of alignment every single day with what I valued most, which was my family. And so many nurses are in that bind, right? So even though it was my company, and this was my first experience, and we were wildly successful, in that hospice agency, but not, obviously to my great detriment, right? That I didn't have the plan set for how will I take care of me and make this sustainable. So great lessons learned. And that was the biggest one I learned at that time, is that so much of all of my stress really came from living out of alignment with what I valued most. Incredible.
Absolutely. And to that point, throughout our nursing careers, if you really think about it, when we, apply to nursing school, that's a stressful process. When we're in nursing school, it's stressful, right? Trying to meet the GPA, clinicals, right? When we graduate, it's exciting, but then it's stressful. You have to study for your NCLEX, right? You launch into the nursing profession, it's stressful. Throughout the trajectory of your nursing career is stress. It's kind of ingrained in us.
Yep.
There aren't many times where we stop to talk about stress management, burnout prevention, self-care. And I think of self-care as healthcare. That's what I think. I think about it as healthcare for yourself, right?
Yes.
Because without your health, nothing matters. If you don't honor self-care, your health will suffer. And if you don't have health, you have nothing. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how much gifts you have, how much your life purpose. It doesn't matter. Right. So it's important that we make time for ourselves to sit back and reflect on, okay, I'm here. Get out of that cycle of stress and reflect on, what do I want? Right. I call it the pause. Right. I call it the gray area to pause, to understand your possibilities, understand your potential. Are you aligned with purpose? Do you need to pivot? Is this the time to pivot in your life? But we have to make the space for that. And when we're in the cycle, we can't see the space. We can't make the space. And sometimes you need someone to help you get out of that cycle,
Right.
to gain perspective. Like you, my family is important. How do I incorporate that into my life? How do I focus on maybe my hobby? How do I, but we're just going. So that's one thing I value that I do, is I help you take that pause, right? And let's unpack a couple of things, because it's not easy. It's not easy. And I know I'm talking about it, but even for me, I still work at it to this day. But we have to understand that we don't have to do these things alone. There's so many of us out there who want the same thing, who's in this profession for the same reason. We are here to help each other. And you don't have to do it alone.
So much great information in that, and I just think for the 3 years, really, I was unable to work for 3 years when all of that happened. And you're absolutely right that it comes down to just carving out time for that self-care. My husband has something that he always says, people talk a lot about, I'm going to make time for this, make time for that. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. There is no making of time. And it's true that how you spend your time and your money reflects what you value most. And so when we really start looking at those things, and I get chills just saying it, because I think about how much I valued my family, but at the same time, I was driven in this mental thing when we owned the hospice, that I wouldn't be enough if I didn't just keep doing all I could do. I wouldn't be enough. I wouldn't measure up. I wouldn't be good enough, to do the thing. And, as a spiritual person, I know that I've been good enough by our Creator, and that's what I need to carry with me, all the time. So interesting, beautiful stuff you're sharing. I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then it's really understanding who you are and what you want in this life. Because, as we both know very well, when you're laying in that bed, that hospice bed, right?
Yep.
Your time comes.
Mhm.
What are you reflecting on?
Yeah.
Right? What's important to you? And one thing I value about having the honor to work with cancer patients and hospice patients is understanding what they value, what were their regrets, right? Like, and really helping them through that, helping them come to terms with where they are now in life. But that's what we have to think about now, right? Because we're not in that bed. We're not in that doctor's office getting that diagnosis or prognosis, right? So what matters is what we do now, right now at this very moment, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, not New Year's resolution, right now.
And to just claim it, right?
Yeah,
Claim it,
absolutely.
go after it
Absolutely.
every single day. Oh my gosh, I love that. So tell us, Wendy, how do you serve your clients today? Tell us about the work of the Stress Blueprint and what you're doing to serve your people today.
Yeah, so I serve my people really by doing group coaching, usually for organizations. I serve my people by speaking, keynote speaking, being on panels. I serve my clients by my podcast, the Nurse Wellness Podcast. And I have a new way I'm serving my my people that I haven't really told anyone. So you'll be the first one, Teresa.
Woohoo, bring it.
But our book just launched.
Oh
Uh,
my gosh,
yes.
incredible.
So that's another way we're serving our people. Shape Your Life, the 5-step blueprint, sustainable stress management has launched. So that's another way of serving our people.
Oh my gosh. Well, I love these offerings and I love number one that you're doing some group coaching because there's so much power in groups, aren't there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just that identification that I'm not the only one. There are a lot of other people going through the same thing. So useful. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I also want to say it's not just stress management, emotional intelligence. Our 4 pillars are stress management, emotional intelligence, communication, and self-leadership. And all of those are evidence-based ways that we overall improve our well-being as individuals.
Love
So
it. Love it. Awesome. Awesome. So tell us, I want to shift gears just a little bit and talk with you about what you enjoy most about working for yourself as a nurse entrepreneur and as the work that you do.
the thing I enjoy most about working for myself is I get to do it my way.
Woohoo.
I get to be creative, I get to be innovative, I get to shift, I get to move. And while I'm changing lives, right? Or impacting lives, it's so refreshing. And because it's so refreshing and we're innovators and creators by nature as nurses, we have to also have a balance in that, right? Because being an entrepreneur, it's like there is no limit, right? There with glass ceiling.
Right.
So that's what I really love. It's really tapping into that creative, innovative side of my brain,
Mhm.
where I can, create things like in a matter of anything, and then execute, right? Put the plan in place.
Love
But
it.
it's really doing it on my terms is what I love. And I would say, the time freedom, the timing of it you can do it for 3 months, you could do it for 2 weeks, you can, and then you can, so I just love the flexibility in entrepreneur.
Awesome. That is just incredible. Yeah, some really great benefits there that you're hitting on. I love that. So I want to ask you now, Wendy, because we talked about indecisiveness in nursing, and you and I both know that there are many nurses who are working today in traditional settings at the bedside or clinics or however, and they may be feeling like, and many of them are feeling like, I wish I had more. I wish I could have some balance in my life. I wish I had more control over my schedule. I wish I could start a business, but I don't know how. Um, what is the one piece of advice you would give to that nurse?
So for that nurse, I would first say shift your perspective and say, I will create a business.
Oh,
And my other piece of advice would be get a coach, get someone who has done it, get mentorship. And that will propel you in the direction you want to go. But you can't go in with this, I wish, right? You have to be very firm and I will do it. I will figure it out. I will impact lives, right? And that's going to shift your mindset and that's going to help you in your journey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. And I love how you said the impact word. We haven't really talked about impact very much this interview, but I know that I mean, that's the work you do, right? You're impacting lives, and ultimately, I think that's what every nurse would like to do. And again, when it comes to living in alignment with what we value our families, we value what excellent patient care, we value having an impact on the patients we serve. And so sometimes being in those traditional settings, especially today with the nursing shortage and all of the issues that we have, nurses don't necessarily feel like they have the time they need to do the quality of work they would want to do, which is just, again, what, another stressor, right? Because I'm out of alignment and it's out of my control.
Yeah. But one thing I would tell nurses who are at the bedside who, are feeling overwhelmed or they can't do whatever or they're feeling stuck is, first of all, take a breath. Take a breath. Let's reset.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to think about, why are you there? Remember that time when you applied for the job and you were just so excited to take care of patients? Get reconnected with that feeling. And I'm saying that because right now in nursing, if you are a bedside nurse, not saying you need to launch into entrepreneurship, but there's so much opportunity where you are, right? I'm sure you've heard of blossom where you're planted. You
Yep.
can blossom right where you're planted. You work in a healthcare institution, you work in a business. What insights can you gain from that business, how it's being run? Who is your nurse manager? Can you connect with them as your mentor? Who's the CNO? Who's the CEO? Who are the individuals running this business? How can you re-engage in a different way where you don't see it as a stressful environment, but you go there, you got to take care of your patients to serve, also gaining insight
Mm.
and adding to your skills. Imagine if you went to work with a different perspective.
I just love that. I absolutely love that. And thank you. And I think it is important, it's kind of like when you said about starting a business, I will, and really there is no try either. I wish, I try,
Mhm.
no, we do or we don't. But I
Right.
love the idea of coming to the workplace with a perspective that's fresh, and that, it may not be, maybe it's not everything, right? We've all been in that situation. Maybe my position isn't everything I aspire to, but what can I glean from it? Take the gold, leave the garbage,
Yeah,
and use it as a stepping stone to move you forward. Power.
absolutely.
Love
Yeah.
that. Oh, I love your insight there. All right. So, Wendy, what I'd like to do now, I want to give you the next few minutes to just talk with our audience about the stress blueprint a little bit more, how they can connect with you if there's anybody that's in need of your services, anything like that. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Thank you all for listening. I hope you gained something from this segment. And what I will say is the stress blueprint is here to stay because we really value you as a nurse, a healthcare professional, as a person. And we truly believe that everyone walking this earth has a purpose. And our main goal is to really just help you uncover that so you can leave your footprints on the world. So if you want to connect with me or anyone from my team, you can reach us at thestressblueprint.com, or you can go to that page and you can actually get everything. You can schedule a complimentary call. We can have a coffee chat, right? It doesn't have to be about you inquiring about services, but I love just talking to people, seeing where you are, what you're doing, what do you want to do? Because I'm really in this business to serve first and foremost. So if you need anything or you have any questions, I'm here to serve and advocate for you. So I look forward to hearing from you. Hopefully, go to stressblueprint.com, schedule a call, and I look forward to connecting with you.
Oh my gosh, valuable information. Wendy, I want to thank you again for joining us today. thestressblueprint.com, everybody. That's where you can connect with Wendy Garvin Mayo and her team to learn some amazing stress management techniques and just, elevate what you can do for yourself in the world of self-care. So love that. Wendy, thanks again for your time today. So appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Teresa. I really appreciate the opportunity.
All right. And to everybody watching, this concludes our episode today of the Nurse Entrepreneur Spotlight. I want to thank you for tuning in. We will see you next time. Bye.